World War II, which involved almost all countries and nations, was one of the most brutal and bloody trials in human history. There are many events and historical facts which were unfairly buried in oblivion, and one of them is the great heroic effort of the Soviet and American peoples. This is the history of the circuit air route Alaska-Siberia for ferrying aircraft and delivering weapons, foods and goods from the United States to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program. The beginning of the war was extremely dramatic, with the Red Army suffering huge human and material losses. The capture of the Soviet Union's most important economic areas caused enormous damage to the economy, including the field of aviation. To help make up for those losses in the shortest amount of time during this part of the war, the Soviets reached out to other countries such as the United States and Great Britain for assistance. The delivery routes for military equipment and strategic goods to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program through the North Atlantic and Russian port of movements and through the Pacific and Indian Oceans to Iran were extremely difficult and dangerous. In October 1941, the State Defense Committee decided to organize a more secure and efficient route for the mass delivery of aircraft and supplies from the United States to the Soviet Union. After a careful study, an air route was chosen, and the reconstruction of existing airports and the construction of the new ones began in incredibly difficult weather conditions and in full secrecy. In less than a year, the airfare route, which American pilots described by saying, "You can be crazy and suicidal, or the Russians can fly it," was put into full operation. The airplanes were delivered from American aircraft factories to an airbase in Great Falls, Montana, and then, along with the mountain ranges of Western Canada, to the airbase Ladd Field in Fairbanks, Alaska, where the planes were accepted by the 1st Ferried Air Division of the Soviet Union. The air route goes from Fairbanks, Alaska to Krasnoyarsk, Siberia, one of the most dangerous areas of the globe, including a permafrost zone. Flying this extremely difficult route without sufficient airfields for backup or in between stops with limited fuel and without radio connection to the Earth was an ordeal. It was a way of life where death was almost waiting on the sidelines. In 2015, the 70th anniversary of the victory in World War II, or what Russians call the Great Patriotic War, the Bravo 369 Flight Foundation and Russian Aviation Co. Ltd. planned to recreate the historical World War II warplane flight from Alaska to Siberia, going from Great Falls, Montana to Krasnoyarsk, flying vintage aircraft supplied under the Lend-Lease program to the Soviet Union. This project is not just an example of Rusavia Ltd. taking part in the project, but also a continuation of its management philosophy. The purpose of the project, which covers the most significant events in the Soviet-American cooperation, is to revive the memory of the courage and heroism of the participants in the Alaska-Siberia air ferry route, not just demonstrating the historical event, but also providing historical education for further strengthening Russian-American relations. Russian Aviation Co. Ltd. has also been carrying out the restoration of historical World War II aircraft. Those legends of the domestic aircraft manufacturer restored to flying conditions are handed over to museums as national treasures, or they take part in flying demonstrations at international air shows and exhibitions. The publishing house of Russian Aviation Co. Ltd., in cooperation with leading aviation historians, has prepared and published more than 50 storybooks and albums of aviation history. The authors of the books on the history of the Great Patriotic War and World War II paid special attention to the history of organizing and operating an air route Alaska-Siberia. Russian Aviation Co. acted as a consultant and participant of the implementation of the ambitious projects, promoting the historical significance of this project as well the fact that this flight will give an additional boost to the development of small aircraft to remote areas of Siberia and Russia's Far East. On September 28, 2013, in Bellingham, Washington, the Brother 369 Flight Foundation and Russian Aviation Co. Ltd. Rusavia signed a memorandum of understanding toward mutual participation in a common project with a framework establishing the non-profit partnership Alaska-Siberia 2015 under the umbrella of Rusavia Ltd. Upon completing the flight, the project participants plan to take part in the flight program of the International Aviation and Space Salon MAX 2015 and later use those airplanes as exhibits, providing patriotic and historical education to younger generations.